and get set up here. We will begin shortly. Looking at the outlet by the light switch. Who watches over you? Make a little birdhouse in your soul. It's been a really fun week for me. There was no Ruby episode last week. Got to do the Clone Wars podcast. I made some serious headway on Quint Part 5. That might be out. That's what I might just release whenever it's done. Do I need to do anything else? No, I don't think so. Pull up the chat. Share this around. Hopefully Discord doesn't freeze again. Actually, it hasn't done it for a while, but for a while there, Discord on my laptop was like it would just like I would close out of it and then like try to turn it back on after a day or whatever. I'd close it out before I go to bed. But then when I would turn it back on, it would be like frozen exactly where it was when I turned it off. And I would have to do a complete hard reset of Discord. That was happening for a while, but it hasn't happened in the last few days, so I think that was a bug that they fixed. Because I certainly haven't changed anything about my laptop since then. Alright, we should be ready to start here. Welcome, people, to another Ghost of Tsushima stream. It's Friday. I just had lunch, and yeah, been a little while since I've had the chance to crack open this game again with you all. During the Ruby season, I just get really busy doing like review, podcast. As I said when I was getting set up here, the lack of a Ruby episode last week freed up my schedule. So we recorded a Clone Wars podcast. I uploaded that. Was it Wednesday I uploaded it? About 2 days ago, yeah. And so now I'm here. I'm gonna hang out with Norio. Gonna do some of his plot line. And I have a piping hot rant for you guys for later. I'm gonna wait a little bit on that though. I just saw one of the stupidest Twitter threads I've ever seen, and it's not even really politics. Politics is always dumb. There's always gonna be people who don't understand that politics is kind of inherently dumb, and I'm a little guilty of that. I'm a little guilty of like tooting my own horn and ranting about my own views or how I see certain political figures. But at the end of the day, it is very opinionated.
A bad storm slowed us to a crawl. Stopped at a farm to sleep a few hours. I woke.
Which is why the last couple of political posts I made on Twitter are just like, "Fuck you, I was right."
Mongol raiders.
Biden just bombed Syria. Oh man, who could have possibly predicted that except everyone that's been warning you about Biden's Wilsonian Warhawk tendencies, since fucking 1988. When was the first time Biden ran for president? Because what he's doing right now is a lot of what cost him the primaries, and yeah, I think it was 1988. You know, he was too much of a war hawk. Too much of a war hawk. Tended to misspeak a lot. Tended to be accidentally racist a lot. Like all these things that, you know, people are being like, oh man, it was kind of a mistake to vote for Biden. That's a lot. It's all the same reasons why people didn't vote for Biden in 1988 or 2008 when he ran before.
What will you do?
I hope one day I can return home. Find a way to rebuild.
I wish I still felt
Should I be
that
riding
way
my
about
horse
my
here?
temple. Most of my life, my course was clear. Follow the Eightfold Path. Raise a family. Serve the temple.
We can still do those things.
I joined the
I am pretty sniffly. I apologize. Because I'm streaming on PS4, I don't have like a push the mute or button or anything.
Our wives will be friends.
I guess I could technically mute my
Mongols
mic
haven't
anytime
taken
I have
everything,
to
Norio.
do something involving
One
my
day
nose,
they'll be
but
gone.
that's just
You'll
too
still have a life to
tedious.
lead.
But I don't feel it's mine alone.
Yeah. This time of year is
And the other monks
always
died.
really
Do
bad
you
for
ever
me
feel
and my
that way about the
sinuses.
samurai of Komoda?
But it's kind of been coming through.
Sometimes.
It's kind of been
My
coming
life
through
has
in
to
my
count for 100
reviews of my
samurai.
podcast
That doesn't feel possible.
Maybe that's the
lately.
point.
Life before the invasion feels like it happened to someone else. Or like childhood.
Maybe 20 years from now, you'll look back on this moment the same way.
Lord Sakai,
Yeah,
I told you
DeAndre
Hochi
kid that never
strongly
trusted
opposes
Biden. And
violence,
I
right?
really feel
You said he
like
disagreed with the warrior monks.
he hates
controversially,
all
I do think there
including
was
yours
some
and
level of
mine.
voter
He
fraud.
can lecture me all
Whether
he
or
likes
not
once
it
he's
was
safe in
enough to
possession of
actually
village.
determine the outcome of the election, we'll never know because they won't let us do the audits. You know, in 2016, they audited the vote in
Getting
Michigan.
close to the camp.
Rightfully so. There was some shady stuff going on in Michigan, you know, in 2016 as well. And that's the thing, like, these claims of voter fraud, they're not new. Biden or Trump is just the first, you know, political candidate
Good look at
to
the whole camp.
try to put a spotlight on it. A lot of the stuff that you know has allegedly happened. Again, I'm not gonna say, you know, it was enough to actually determine the outcome of the election.
We have to find Hochi.
But a lot of it's the same stuff that happened in 2000 and
The Mongols are holding
2004
someone
and
there.
2016 and
If I go alone,
and,
I can reach him without the
you know
Mongols knowing.
we need to have things like voter ID in order to
A
protect,
Mongol signal cannon.
you know,
I could set it off.
democracy and the
Draw their
republic.
attention.
While
Like
I
we
get
like
Hochi out.
there's just a lot of vulnerabilities that are really
After I
easy to
find Hochi,
exploit,
we'll meet
and we're
there.
not even allowed
Don't
to
wait
talk
for me
about
if
those
I know.
exploits
Get
because
Hochi back
it's,
to the village.
you know, supposedly a conspiracy theory. But you know, more recently,
I'll
people
leave you
have
both
proven
back
that
in
yes,
the
dead people
Set
voted.
off the signal cannon.
Yes,
I'll get Hochi.
Take
illegal
refuge in
immigrants
Underwood.
voted. Yes, people voted from addresses that don't even exist. Like, again, whether or not it was enough to determine the outcome of the election is not important. The important thing is it absolutely happened. And if we don't do something about it, it's going to keep happening. And soon enough, like, it won't even matter to have an election. Whoever has the most money to you know, ballot harvest and stuff, they'll just win, whether they have the actual will of the people or not. And that's when democracies die. That's the kind of stuff you see in, like, Venezuela and Russia. You know, that, again, like, there's precedent for it, not so much in America because we're not even allowed to talk about it, but it happens all over the world, all the time. America has been guilty of being the ones to fix elections in South America. I need to see that spot. Should have used ghost. I had it. So I was like, I was talking. Completely forgot that I even had Ghost Dance.
Good work, my friend. That should send the Mongols running.
Once again, I'm using the same setup I've been using for all these Ghost of Tsushima streams, so I can't really hear the game myself. Y'all should be able to hear it just fine. But when I plug my good mic into my PlayStation, it also tries to filter the headphones through that, and there's no headset for this mic.
To see the temple. The people there need healers badly.
There's no time for this.
I'm sorry, but I must remain here. Jin! Hochi! Norio? What are you doing here?
Luckily, I've played this game all the way through. I've
They're almost on us.
basically 100% completed.
Damn it. Stay back, Hochi. We won't let them near you.
Like, again, I think there's some upgrades and stuff that I hadn't gotten. So, like, I'm not missing out on story. I just might forget what's going on every so often. Just like cues like that.
Come receive a lesson, man. Monk of Cedar Temple is your sensei. Are the others with you, Norio? Everyone is gone. It's just me now. I'm sorry. I wish we could end this bloodshed. The Mongols were searching for me. I gave myself up to save lives. How did they know where to find you?
2022, because it's a midterm,
and they wanted to return me to see
it would technically probably be easier to get away with it, but
Mongol or Japanese,
at the same time, I think logistically it would be harder to do.
Some deserve it.
Just because the elections are so local during midterms.
I don't know.
Like,
Norio, take Hochi back to the village before reinforcements.
The Democrats lost House seats in 2020.
I'll meet you.
That was the thing that they kind of actually lost. I think they gained 3 Senate seats by the end. They gained the 1 Senate seat in Arizona, and then they gained the 2 in Georgia because of runoff shenanigans and Stacey Abrams actively bragging about ballot harvesting, which should be illegal, but it's not, so whatever. But I'd have to look at the Senate map. I'm trying to think of who would be up for... Like, I know Roy Blunt is going to be up for re-election here in Missouri. But that's a state... We have pretty, strict voter ID laws. And it is also, like, just a really conservative state. Like, even... Like, I don't live very far from St. Louis, and a lot of people I know here in St. Louis, they are, pretty conservative for liberals. What? Yeah, I'm not doing any of the tails. Yeah, 2022. Yeah, I really would have to look at you know, what senators are for grabs. As far as the House goes, I do think the Republicans will take it, and even though I don't agree that this is what they should do, I wouldn't mind if it ends up happening, which is impeaching Biden. The Democrats set a really terrible precedent in, you know, 2018, 2019, and then this year in well, it was more 2020, I think. Right? Well, yeah, that's right, because they focused on the impeachment effort rather than preparing for COVID. So they set a really bad precedent in 2020 by making up, just pulling out of their ass the contempt of Congress charge, as well as the very nebulous abuse of power. So once they get the House back, they can easily impeach Biden for, let's say, his Ukraine dealings, the Hunter Biden, you know, underage Chinese, you know, citizens situation, the fact that he just bombed Syria without congressional approval. There's a lot that they could end up impeaching him on that, you know, it would be better not to, but the precedent is already there. The Democrats created a really terrible precedent, and it would, you know, be a missed opportunity for the Republicans not to throw that right back in their face as soon as they get the House back. Like, go into it knowing that Biden's gonna be easily acquitted, because that's just how partisanship works. You unless a president is caught like actively murdering someone, they're not gonna get the bipartisan support for an impeachment effort to throw them out of office. It's just not gonna happen.
It's right to prevent more suffering.
But still, throw it back in their face. Teach them a lesson with that.
Lord Sakai,
What's the problem?
Mongols are gathering nearby, preparing to strike.
We should evacuate to Castle Canada.
The real kicker in 2022, though,
not one of you
and this bodes well for people like me,
But we won't have blood on our hands.
Go tell the village your plan.
because the 2020 election was so controversial, and because they were really hush-hush about any audits,
more than others' opinions. First,
a lot of state legislators,
Sakai. Do you ever think for yourself?
which, keep in mind, Biden
Enough.
won fewer counties than anybody who has ever won an election.
I refuse to hide. don't
And
take
because of
lives.
that, he lost a lot of support on the state level. The Democrats, on the whole, did. And now these Republican legislatures that are on the state level are implementing better,
Let's go to the
stricter
village.
voter
See what defensive
regulation
preparations we can make quickly. Gather
that
everyone
will
to you.
prevent
Ready them to take
more
shelter.
voter fraud from ever occurring.
One of these rooftops should work.
This does not bode well for the Democrats trying to keep the House.
We need you to gather here.
The Senate
Lead
is
your
another
families
matter because
quickly.
those are statewide elections. And I mean, Stacey Abrams basically proved that, you know, big city Democrats from New York and LA are more than willing to actively pay people's rent to move from New York and LA and stuff. You know, ballot harvesting. In order to flip, you know, the Georgia Senate seats. Like, most of the people that voted Democrat in Georgia, well, I shouldn't say most. There were enough people who moved from like New York and Massachusetts to Georgia at the 11th hour for the sole purpose of voting in the Georgia runoffs. And we know that because Stacey Abrams bragged about it. Like, Stacey Abrams up and admitted it and dared us to, like, do something about it. Stacey Abrams, by the way, you know, likes to make fun of all this voter fraud allegations when she's been claiming she actually won the Georgia governor race in 2018 for the last 2.5, well, I guess 2 years. Yeah. Like how about this? I will admit that Stacey Abrams won the 2018 Georgia governor race if everyone else admits that Trump won the president race in 2020 because they're about they are about the same level of validity.
If we flee into the swamp, people will get lost, separated.
DeAndre Kidd asked, did you hear the Toxic Ruby actually did something good for once by sending money to Rooster Teeth for a snowstorm? I don't know about that, because the people that I saw actually donating money to Rooster Teeth because of the Texas snowstorm were people like Cal and Murder Birds who...
Incense burners.
I wouldn't consider them toxic.
Smoke nice and dense. Enough to use as cover. Norio and Hochi lead everyone to the temple. I'll deal with the Mongols here. They'll blame me, not the villagers.
My lord, we've gathered everyone.
Take them to the temple.
I won't let you fight alone.
If the Mongols go to the temple...
last week I had some words for the people who
I'll do as you ask.
Felt really entitled for episodes to a show that they don't even like.
I owe you a jar of sake for putting up with Hochi.
Everyone, Mongols are on the way. Follow me to the temple. The invaders will face the wrath of a samurai.
Please, everyone, do as Norio says. We'll take shelter at the temple.
Quickly, everyone get to the temple. Keep moving.
Make sure you have your family with you. Leave no one behind.
Get to the temple. Keep moving.
Oh, my nose kind of cleared up there for a little bit. I do like the ideas in this little side mission, but it's another one of those things where it asks you to do something interesting, but because it's an action game, you're kind of hardwired to do what is most effective, and what's most effective is to just
hide in a granary.
Stand and fight. Like, you could probably do this mission without the incense.
They're here. Now to light the incense burners. I hope the Mongols like smoke.
Nekum zum Tevla! Intervas arvat weißen! Jogos samurai se non so taiba, sumo korse guste!
This game is so pretty, guys.
Sagda Harsidish. Marsila, Ego, and Harvat. Sasha! Sasha! Utoro! Solari check!
I was about to do Ghost Dance too. Didn't really back it up.
Better check on Norio and Hochi.
This game is so pretty. The temple's this way, right? I'm not going crazy. Yeah. Right here.
Norio!
Road Buckeye!
What happened, Norio?
I was fighting. A Mongol snuck up behind me.
DeAndre Kid, yeah, I saw that
He threw
happen,
himself
but
at the blow meant for me.
You're both
the
braver
dude
than
decided
any
to
samurai
try to
I've
make a performance out of unsubscribing on a post about
I didn't
trans
know he was
people.
behind me until I heard him cry.
So
By the time
they
I turned
kind of had a
around,
point.
he was dead.
It's not your fault. Norio?
Every time they lifted the cover on the pit,
You know, like if say
this time
Movie Bob,
One of them
I'm gonna use
stayed
him
like
because he
sucker.
does suck.
I felt
If
their hands
Movie Bob
pull
did
me up.
another one of those shitty
But my
Dear
brother
America
threw himself
videos,
at them.
and he talked about,
He was starving,
I don't know,
wounded.
Black
But he
Lives
fought
Matter. Talked about Black Lives Matter.
Fought them so hard.
And he talked about, very real racial divides in America and,
Yes,
and around the
I
world.
do.
Remember, Black Lives Matter is not exclusively in America. They're also in the UK,
They gave
all
up
throughout
on me
Europe, Canada.
and took Angel.
No, most
They took
European and European adjacent cultures have Black Lives Matter movements now.
my brother. Everyone who rode south.
He did
from
that, and
Cedar
then
Temple.
I, typed in the comments, "I'm unsubscribing." Then
Except me.
he is right to think that
They
I am
deserve to
unsubscribing
live.
because I do not agree with his
I'm
views
the
on
one who
race.
should be dead.
I don't because he's a eugenist, but that's beside the point. That's why I'm actually using Movie Bob as an example, because he
thought the same
does.
thing
He
after
is
Komodo.
an actual terrible human being.
Many times.
So now, if say
know
someone
why
I
he survived,
tend to
maybe.
agree with more, Razor
He did.
Fist. So then, if Razor Fist
these
then
people
did a
are counting
video
on us.
about,
We're all they
well,
have.
let's pick an innocuous subject. If he did a video
people
about
of Akashima are
God of
alive
War,
because of
if he
you.
just laid
Don't forget
into it, as he probably would if he
they
decided to
won't.
do a God of War video. I know he doesn't like that series. I do. So if he did that, and then I put in the comments, I'm unsubscribing. He is right to think that I am unsubscribing because his opinions on God of War are just too different from mine for me to care about any of his opinions. It's petty. It's petty to make a show of unsubscribing. If you're going to unsubscribe to someone, just fucking do it. Don't make a show out of it. Don't try to like get free clout from it. That's stupid. I'm gonna do this mission. We are 30 minutes into the stream, and I am finally going to do a story mission. I said this game. The ideal stream length for this game to have real progress probably would need more than just 2 hours. And I almost got hit by a deer. But I don't have the energy to stream for more than 2.5 hours. Ooh.
Hey.
Probably should have went in stealthily. I do the way of the flame. R1 rate. Where are the other bonus objectives? Oh, I think that was the only bonus objective. The other ones were actual objectives. Thought I had to drop stealthily. That was a good shot. I usually suck at, you know, stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not terrible at archery in this game. It's just not really something I'm super good at. One of these days I will actually do ghost stand. Oh, if I get the drop on this guy. If I get the drop on that guy and assassinate him, that's it's a guaranteed ghost stance. But it has to be a stealth takedown. Where's the other guy? Oh, he's running? better footing. Okay, I think that's, no, it's not all of them. There's a lot of Mongols in this little camp.
явцгач ихтэй болгоомжтой.
Sneaking, 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 sneaking. You just gotta kill one more person without getting hit and I can do the ghost dance. How many times have I gotten to this point though? Stolen iron. I almost hit him twice in. Sneak up on this guy.
Hindman! Явц туслая!
This way, so I'm gonna do ghost dance. Sounds like I'm saying ghost dance, but this guy didn't hear any of that. Oh, it's so absurd. This game sometimes. There's a lot of games and that have bare bones stealth elements kind of fall into that trap of making the AI really dumb. DeAndre Kid asks, I wonder when will Raven return? She needs to be redeemed badly. I don't know if she is going to return. I mean, we don't need her because for the Relic of Knowledge. We got that. She's... Unless she decides to just actually actively get back into the plot, I don't see a way that, you know, we're not going to just run into her again like we did in Volume 5. She's not going to be pulled into the plot against her own will again. She's just not in the right place at the right time this time around. Straw Hat Grunt. Like, the best bet is if, and this is a big if the plot ever actually returns to Vale for more than a minute, then we might see Raven. But if we were gonna see her in Vale, we would have saw her a couple episodes ago with the broadcast. But we didn't. We didn't see her at all in that episode. We're now 46 minutes in and I haven't even started a single main quest thing yet. I've been on the way to one for a while now. Wait, is that my destination? Yeah.
Jin, you made it!
Before I do this mission, I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant here about something completely unrelated to the game or anything else. I saw one of the stupidest Twitter threads I think I've ever seen. That's actually why I started talking about politics, is because I was like, no, it's not political. It has nothing to do with any of this stuff. It was this really long thread about animation. Sorry, I was trying to find the Twitter thread again. And it kind of just boiled down to this guy not understanding the difference between genre and demographic. Like, YA isn't a genre. It's a demographic. It means that you are, you know, targeting your story towards teenagers, you know, young adults, people who have mental faculties closer to that of an adult, but still have the free time and lack of experience of children. And
why are these people outside
the thread just, it really doesn't understand that shows like Gravity Falls, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, like, this isn't a new thing. This is
Now they
animation
allies
returning
too.
to form.
Think about it.
Because back in the day,
Help them drive off the Mongols.
animation
They
was
help
for
us.
everyone. Because it had to be for
Wait before I
everyone.
fight for them.
Because
Can't even get into the
going
city.
to the theater,
Yes, we
because
can.
you had to go to the
There's a
theater
hidden
to see
entrance.
cartoons,
From when
TVs
we
weren't
were
a thing yet.
children. Even if it's still there, we can't reach
People, parents,
to try.
adults who could drive
I know a place we can scout for a way
would
around the
take
Mongol
their
siege.
kids, people who couldn't drive, to the movie theater, and they would watch things together as a family. And so, cartoons, like, you know, old school Mickey Mouse, old school Looney Tunes, Felix the Cat,
thing
Out of the
after so
Inkwell,
many
Betty
years.
Boop,
Everywhere I look,
Popeye,
brings
Fleischer,
back
Superman,
memories.
which is
And try
fucking
not to
awesome,
look
by
so
the way.
hard.
Still one
Were
of the
you
best
here when the
Superman
Radical Rebellion broke out?
adaptations
No,
ever.
we left years earlier when we were children.
Did your parents move you?
Those were
Something like
made
that.
for wide audiences. They were, you know, kids could be
doesn't
enthralled with the flashy colors or the fluid motions and the
They're heading for town.
expressiveness and
They
the,
pass.
the cutesy animal character mascots like Felix and Mickey.
They're clear.
But adults could be, you know, taken in with the
way.
macabre nature of it, because macabre was very in vogue, you know, back then. You look at the Universal monsters, the kind
I
of
don't want
dark
to see
tunes
this.
of Felix the
worse.
Cat
But
this was horrible.
Sooner or
and
later, everyone has to return home.
Bendy's the video game that was
From their
inspired
past.
by it recently. But like Out of the Inkwell,
Surrounded.
Minnie the Moocher, which I think was a Betty Boop cartoon. You know, you look at stuff like that. It's very
Doesn't stand
macabre.
a chance.
And macabre is like morbid but still safe. Like
Where's
it's
the hidden
horror
entrance?
without the blood and
See that
gore.
river near the town walls. Get us
So
that
Dracula,
far, and
the
I'll do
entire
rest.
work of
We can't
Vincent
sneak past
Price.
an army.
That
And even if we find an
classifies as
entrance, what if
macabre.
the Mongols
Macabre
see
was
us?
very, very
Sentence the town to
big
death.
in the 1930s and
Saved my life
40s.
when you met
That's
me.
just where, you know,
Now
things
it's
were
your turn
at.
to trust me.
And so these cartoons, they were also very macabre, and that macabre
Michael.
nature was to appeal to adults.
I
Kids
don't
could
see
get
how we
into
can
it
make
too,
it
because
for the
kids
real.
like to be
We'll find a
taken
way.
seriously.
The walls won't keep this many Mongols out.
And they
Doesn't
like to be
obey fair.
respected as well.
Radical will.
And so
I know
all the
these people.
skeletons and,
They'll choose
and,
death
and
before
ghosts and
slavery.
ghouls and kind of the
They'll take the fight to the
slants
Mongols.
of morbidity with the
Tuck is right.
humor.
Too risky.
Kids were into that, but adults were way into that, and that's
Entrance used to be
that's
over there,
what
behind
made
that
it
white
worth
tree.
it for
Let's hope
them
the
to
Mongols
take
haven't
their
found
kids to see these Mickey Mouse and Felix
Just
the
have to
Cat
find a way through the
cartoons.
camp.
Once we reach the water, it should be easy to find the entrance without being spotted.
That's
That
our plan?
changed with the advent
Sneak
of
to the
television,
biggest Mongol
because
camp I've ever
suddenly,
seen,
with
then
network
hope the
television, I
secret
don't know.
entrance we used as children
I don't
is
look
still
at the
there.
demographics for
Stay
my
close.
channel very often, so I don't know how
Let's go.
old all of you guys are. Like the ones I've directly talked to, I know
This
that
is your
like
idea.
you know
need to prove
my
my worth
age,
to your uncle.
usually a little bit younger,
must
so
pass it
20s.
off this
So
island.
I don't know how many of you remember
You were too young to know how it really
television
was. Jericho
being
was an
24
ugly place
hours
for
is
girls
a
that
very
tried to rise to a name.
recent
Is that why you
development.
No. I gotta
It wasn't your fault.
Used to be, you know, network television. This is a very heavily stealth segment, so I don't know why I'm doing it like this.
칭하고, 어찌 베리, 너 사무라이 춘, 사무라.
So anyway, with television, you know, you had to pay for the network time.
Let's go.
This made
Believe I'm risking my life.
and it gave animation a
This is
new
your idea.
platform,
I need to prove my
but
worth to
animation was not optimized to utilize that platform because it was so expensive and it took so much time to make, and this adult audience that would go out and see the theater, go to the theater and watch movies and stuff, they were still going out to the movies on Fridays. You know, they'd get home from work and then they'd take the kids out to see, what was a big movie in the 50s? Cinderella. They'd take the kids out to see Cinderella. You know, they'd pawn the kids off on a babysitter and go see Dial M for Murder. or Rear Window. I just named 2 Hitchcock films because I know he was big in the 50s. And that would be their theater going for those few months. I don't remember where to go, and I can't hear. So I'm gonna pause
Let's go.
as I continue this rant. So with the advent of television, the network studios, they were 9 to 5 jobs. People had to actually operate the radios and whatever was broadcasting the signals. I'm not super familiar with the particulars of 1950s technology. But there had to be people at the station, and so you would only get television from 6 in the morning to about 10 p.m. That would be when they had people working there. Suddenly, the ability for adults to watch cartoons was limited because of the time. They would really only have time to watch, what became later known as primetime television. Your typical 1950s working family would get up at 6 or 7. They'd send the kids off to school. They'd go to work. They'd come back 5 p.m. They'd have dinner, and then they'd watch the news, the game, and then maybe if they were interested in television, they would watch a television program like the Dick Van Dyke Show or I Love Lucy. They didn't have as much time for the kids' cartoons, they had to be very cheap and disposable because it was the only way to make them viable on the TV platform. But the ones who did have time, and the ones who did have the free time, particularly on Saturday mornings, because remember, a lot of people in the 50s and 60s, they still worked on Saturdays. They would have like Sundays off for religious reasons. Or Mondays off, or depending on their work schedule. It was really up to the employees or employers, rather. But kids always had Saturday morning off. They didn't have school, they didn't have work, and their sleep schedules were already set to wake up early in the morning anyway. So they would get up early on Saturday morning. They'd turn on the TV because maybe they just don't have anything better to do. And what was on? Cartoons. This is why cartoons started being stigmatized for kids, because kids were the only ones who had the time to watch cartoons. And so throughout the 70s and 80s, those cartoons started gearing themselves more and more towards children. In the 70s, there was a lot of backlash against things like The Simpsons and Yogi Bear for portraying smoking and drinking or what have you. And so they were sanitized. The 70s, they were very sanitized for animation. The 80s, that sanitation kind of came off, but the kid-friendly nature of it stayed, and we started getting, the advertiser-heavy cartoons like Transformers, G.I. Joe. But then, in the 90s, everything changed. Cable television took off. Suddenly, 24-hour networks. Whenever you had the free time, you could watch TV. And so, TV studios en masse had to kind of... They had a lot more to play around with and experiment with demographics. What demographics have what times of the week off. And they could tailor shows towards those audiences. Enter Ted Turner, as most things on this channel eventually do. Ted Turner created Cartoon Network as his, own pet project cable network. 24-hour cartoons. cartoons nonstop. He bought up a bunch of the Warner Brothers and Hanna-Barbera backlogs to play. He founded Cartoon Network Studios, which would then create original programming. Suddenly, Cartoon Network was a 24-hour cartoon. Well, it's in the name. It's Cartoon Network. And so kids all around the world, or at least in the parts of the world that had Cartoon Network, I don't know if it was a universal thing or not, they could watch cartoons whenever they wanted, no matter what time of the day or year it was. They didn't have to just do it on Saturday mornings. And adults didn't have to either. Adults who grew up with Tom and Jerry were suddenly watching Tom and Jerry with their kids. This demographic that were children in the 60s when Flintstones and Scooby-Doo and Yogi Bear and Birdman, when those were on, they suddenly had new Scooby-Doo things, new Yogi Bear things, new Harvey Birdman, which was new Birdman, and they could watch it either with their kids or for purely nostalgic purposes, just watch it on their own. Now, 30 years had passed between, Flintstones premiering and Flintstones premiering on Cartoon Network. So people who were, 5 or 6 when Flintstones started, they were now 35 and 36. So this is between that, the advent of, later on things like DVR and TiVo, not to mention the cross-cultural influences that were happening in the late 80s, early 90s, particularly with Japan. Suddenly, animators just found themselves with way more freedom and way more tools to play around with, and frankly, they knew what to do with. And so they started hitting the emotional gamut, which emotional gamuts are typically good.
Believe I'm risking my life coming back to this dump.
This was your idea.
I need to prove my worth to your uncle. Earn us passage off this island.
I loved it here.
You were too young to know how it really was. Rico was an ugly place.
But now let's
price to a name.
focus on this before I go into part 2 of this rant, which is why this person's argument is bullshit.
Are you sure this is a good idea?
You ready to run?
I was hoping I could hard, get to like a checkpoint, kind of a hard reset.
Let's go.
Can't believe I'm risking my life coming back to this dump.
This was your idea.
I need to prove my worth to your uncle. Earn us passage off this island.
I loved it here.
You were too young to know how it really was. Rico was an ugly place for a girl without a handful of rice to her name.
Is that why you left?
No. I got us in trouble.
It wasn't your fault.
So this person's argument, or one of the arguments, was that the fact that things appeal to mass audiences means that there's nothing for specific audiences, which by itself is bullshit. Like, if you think you're too mature for Gravity Falls, you don't have to watch Gravity Falls. Devilman Crybaby is a perfect, well, maybe bad example, because I don't like that show. But, like, the more mature cartoons still exist. They're still out there. Not everything is geared towards the YA audience. That's probably the biggest crime in this Twitter post, is that he's like, oh, everything is CalArt style, even like the Japan stuff. Look at that. No, like that's a specific demographic. YA is a demographic, not a fucking genre. No, being geared towards teenagers is not a bad thing. Teenagers are a very lucrative audience, and one that, they want stuff that is fun. They don't, you know, not every teenager wants edgy Devilman Crybaby misery porn stuff. Sometimes they want to laugh. Sometimes they want a comedy. Sometimes they want to see Tom and Jerry beat the crap out of each other. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's, like, no gaps. Wait. I'm going the wrong way. It's probably why I was losing. I kept on going the wrong way.
Let's go.
I believe I'm risking my life coming back to this dump.
This was your idea.
I need to prove my worth to your uncle. Earn us passage off this island.
I found it here.
You were too young to know how it really was. Jericho was an ugly place for a girl without a handful of rice to her name.
Is that why you left?
No. I got us in trouble.
It wasn't your fault.
Are you sure this is a good idea?
You ready to run?
I'm not going the wrong way. Let's try through here. Oh, that is a lot of people. But it's also a lot of cover, which bodes well. Anybody immediately on the side? Let's try going through here. Wait, what? Who saw me? Horse.
Huge visual.
Just follow Jin to the river.
I got this, I got this, I got this.
We used to catch dragonflies here, didn't we?
And make them fight.
We pretend one was a Yarikawa samurai, and the other was a
Shimura samurai. And Shimura always lost.
Interesting choice.
The most laughable part of this post was the idea that you know, kid shows having sad moments was somehow like meant that the writers were the emotionally stunted adults.
It's still
But I have no idea where that claim came
Probably
from.
why they've held
But it
out
was
for
there,
so
just sitting
When we
there,
get up there,
being
let
dumb.
them do the talking.
long. It's your hometown.
Like, man, nobody tell this guy about Bambi, please.
Who are you?
Actually
How
do
did you
and,
get in?
and record
My
it for
brother
me.
and I
I
were
want to see
born
his
here.
his head
Just a
completely
Mongol
like
for you?
implode at the
We're here to
scene
help
where
you break their siege.
Bambi's
First, tell
mom
me the
gets
name of the
tragically
dead
shot,
samurai
and then in
who
the very
stole
next scene, it's like bum bum
He's
bum
the
bum bum
thief.
bum bum
He's the
bum bum
ghost.
bum bum bum.
Ghost.
I don't remember how the little jingle
I'll
goes,
take
so
you
I,
to
every
Ujima
time I
Side.
try to think of it,
But
it
mind
always
yourself.
ends up being
All armed here.
the,
Run and
the
tell the
Christmas
steward,
song, like,
right
"Lovely
away."
Weather verse, laying right
Tsushima-san.
together with you," because it kind of
It's
sounds
the
like
name
that.
of Lord Yarikawa's youngest son. But my uncle disbanded their clan when he defeated them.
The family still runs things here. Unofficially.
Now,
The
kids
uncle
are
put down a
able to
rebellion and
handle
created a generation
dark
of
subject
people
matter.
who
Like,
hate
it goes
Clan
back
Shimura.
to the idea of the macabre.
Mongols are crossing the bridge.
You know, that kids can handle
Stay close.
dark
What's going
themes
A disturbance at the
so
main
long
gate.
as you're not like in your face stupid
It's
about
their
it.
leader. Are they going to attack?
Let's find out what they want.
Armarmin, people of Yarikawa, I am Temuge, leader of this war band. I learned your speech, so I may offer you a future. Open your gates before my camp flies the black flag, and you will know great mercy. Refuse, and you will know terrible misery. Choose your future, Yarikawa.
They're leaving. Let's go. If Yarikawa surrenders, Lord Shimura won't get his army.
Don't worry. They're too stubborn to surrender.
If they don't, it will be a bloodbath.
They need my uncle as much as he needs them. United, we can beat back the invaders.
People here have bad memories of Lord Shimura.
If they're going to survive, Yarikawa needs to let go of the past.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, this part is very cutscene heavy. So I'm just gonna let it play out.
Ujima-san knows you're here. You two go ahead. I want to check on the swordsmith.
And I think just
Old
because
Ujima-sa Yarikawa.
I never thought Lord Shimura's nephew would be responsible for the ghost. You best be careful, or he'll punish you, as he punished my once great family.
For inciting rebellion against your Jito.
That was years ago. We've all got bigger problems now.
Who's this? Your servant?
I was born here.
Yet you're aiding Clan Shimura.
No, I'm fighting for Lord Sakai. For the ghost.
We can help break the siege outside your walls. In return, Lord Shimura requests your help.
The Mongols want to conquer the mainland. They will lose interest in us. And Yarikawa will survive. Like we always do.
That could have gone better.
Let's find Taka. Ujima-sa is a fool.
He can be convinced.
The whole island's burning, and Yarikawa's next. If that doesn't convince him, nothing will. Taka used to visit this swordsmith every day. If there was any leftover metal, he'd let my brother pretend to make swords.
The swordsmith remembered you?
Shinsuke passed away. That's his son. How did it go?
Ujima-sa thinks they can outlast the siege.
The smith told me all the best archers left to fight the Mongols, against Ujima-sa's orders. They've been missing for days.
If we find these archers, they may help us break the Mongol siege and win the town's support.
Meet me in old Yarikawa when you can. We'll look for them there.
And show Yarikawa how to fight back.
Shinsuke's son still has the rock.
The one you used to hammer out your swords?
It's so small. In my memory, it's huge.
You spent hours with him.
yeah.
I'd have to drag
Alright,
you.
so what's next? So that's done. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this mission in a minute, but I'm gonna go kind of like point by point on this thread. Since I've given you the overall impression I got, I'm gonna be a little more pedantic and really get into the meat and potatoes of why I took umbrage with this Twitter thread. And why I think they really just don't know anything. Get to safety first. And just to clarify, and just, is that a shrine? Alright, so I'm gonna go point by point on this thread. Bear with me. I know you guys want me to play more of this game, whatever. I want to play more of it with you guys too, but I really don't think I'm doing this post, the mundanity of this post any justice. I'm not really doing my talking points outside the histrionics justice by speaking about it in broad terms. So I'm going to use my mocking voice to differentiate between the Twitter thread and my actual thoughts. You've probably noticed I use YA as a catch-all insult for modern cartoons. I think someone asked me what it means, and it hadn't occurred to me that it's not universally understood, but YA stands for young adult, and it's a term referring to young adult literature. Kinda. It did get popularized through literature, but that's because literature has and always will be kind of on the cutting edge of genre and demographics and stuff like that. For the simple virtue that it's way easier to publish a book than it is to make a TV show. So the literary world is always going to be where experimentation happens. Young adult is a marketing term created to sell more books, and much like PG-13, the PG-13 rating for movies, it's now reduced everything to the same lowest common denominator of immaturity by flattering average normies into thinking their taste is so mature for their age. Alright, 3 problems with this. 1, it is not a marketing term, it is a demographic term. Same thing with kids, adults, elderly, whatever. 2, it was not created to sell more books. It was, like all categorization, it was made for categorical reasons. It was made to help organize things like libraries and bookstores so that they would know where to put things when they would get them shipped in. Like, you're not going to see Dr. Seuss next to War and Peace at a library. No, they gotta be separated. You put the Dr. Seuss books with the Dr. Seuss books. You put the going up the audience list, the Beverly Clearys with the Beverly Clearys, the Harry Potters with the Harry Potters, and then you get into the more technically adult stuff like your Moby Dicks, your 20,000 Leagues Under the Seas, your Journey to the Centers of the Earths. And then you get the more complex things like the War and Peace, Catcher in the Rye, the works of Charlotte Brontë. Because reading level things are more complex. You can have mature aspects like violence, sex, drug abuse, whatever, and it'd still be on a reading level to where 16-year-olds can comprehend it. I read The Outsiders in middle school, and I read Jane Eyre in high school. Don't ask. And The Outsiders has a lot more, quote, mature things in it. It has, the smoking and drinking and gang violence and, characters dying. Charlotte Brontë, the most mature thing she put in Jane Eyre was like a makeout scene. But Jane Eyre is a very complicated text. It's thematically, it's kind of thematically deep. It's very, very descriptive to the point of like almost putting me to sleep a lot of times when I was reading it. But it is written in a very flowery way. It's very, like, it's not simply written. It's very descriptive. It uses a lot of metaphors and similes and a lot of this stuff to the point where, like, unless you have a more adult brain, you're not going to really even understand what it's saying on a very simplistic level. You see this with a lot of the critically acclaimed writers like Dickens and a little bit of Shakespeare, where it's written in a way that, kids aren't going to understand. A kid could totally get behind all the concepts and all the mature aspects of Jane Eyre. But you give a 10-year-old Jane Eyre, they're not going to even know what 90% of these words mean. That is why these age demographics matter. YA is, it can have adult themes, but it's written to where younger audiences can actually understand what's going on. Not from a thematic or content level, but from a pure textual, what the fuck does this word mean level. And kids do use the F word, I know from experience. And this, to springboard off that, the comment about PG-13, put PG-13 in quotes. The reason the PG-13 rating exists is because teenagers can drive! Teenagers don't need to have their parents holding their hands. They can be dropped off at the movie theater and then picked up when they're done. Kids, it's not so safe to do that. Yes, back in the day there was G, which was for all audiences. PG, which is, for all audiences, but parents might want to accompany their kid or think things through, do a personal risk assessment on whether, their kid should watch it or not. PG-13 is like that, but once you're at the age of 13, you can make your own damn decisions. You can watch whatever the fuck you want, so long as you're above the age of 13 and this is not rated R. And then rated R is just a more extreme version of PG-13, where it's the exact same thing, except now the cutoff age is 17 instead of 13. And the third problem with this part of the thread is the so mature for their age. No, if you're a young adult, a teenager, and you read a text geared towards teenagers, then you're not mature for your age. You're exactly where you should be, mature-wise. I don't get that. Like, he says it's a demographic. Like, again, he's confusing genre for demographics. This thing is geared towards young adults. Young adults should be able to get it. Wow, what a novel concept. God damn. Before the PG rating, movies were basically either for kids or adults. Wrong. PG existed. But over time, studios realized that by toning down the sex, violence, and language a little bit, they could get a rating which would mean more kids could buy tickets. Actually, it happened in reverse. Rated R stayed rated R. They didn't tone anything down. They actually took PG, which was a very broad category, and they split that in two. They toned up the violence in PG movies and then gave it a PG-13 rating. This is where the comments are like, oh, this wouldn't fly today, comes from with, movies like The Dark Knight. Or, wouldn't fly back then. There was a lot of censorship in the 50s and 60s, and especially in children's entertainment in the 70s. You couldn't have... You couldn't have things like, why so serious? In the 70s. The PG-13 rating, which created that split, allowed for that to happen. This is why a lot of older PG movies, they can get really intense, like The Goonies or Empire Strikes Back. Movies that existed before the PG-13 rating happened, but really rode that edge towards rated R, but didn't have the language or gore to validate a rated R rating. But rated R movies haven't changed since, the MPAA was founded. Same thing with G. G hasn't changed. What changed was PG. PG is the only rating level that changed when PG-13 was introduced. This is partly why cape shit came to dominate the movie. Nope. The cape shit has been dominating the movies since always. Go back to the pulps of the 40s and 50s. Go back to Fleischer's fucking Superman. Still one of the best Superman. I know I said that earlier in the stream, but it's still, it's still one of the best. I will always say Fleischer's Superman is one of the best Superman, things. Comic book heroes have been dominating pop culture for a long-ass time. The reason why it took so long to do movies on them is because the technology wasn't there. You know, you look back at 70s Spider-Man from Japan, it looks really cheap. It is definitely a TV show, and it's not even a particularly well-made TV show. It wasn't until the 2000s that you could actually make a Spider-Man movie. This is why, like, more grounded heroes like Punisher got a movie in 1988 with Dolph Lundgren. Why? Because Punisher is a hero, doesn't have powers. His power is just guns. So they made a pretty generic 80s action movie, slapped the Punisher license on it, and called it a day. You know, Batman doesn't require the same amount of special effects as Iron Man. That's why Batman was making movies back in the 60s, while Iron Man didn't get his first movie until 2008. It has nothing to do with the ratings. It has everything to do with technology. Superman from 1978 was ahead of its time. It was a groundbreaking special effects masterpiece. It had very dark stuff. It was PG. It wasn't rated R. It was PG. Because the PG-13 rating didn't exist yet. But it was pretty intense PG. Not, super intense. It wasn't Goonies level intense. But it was, people died in that movie. And then were brought back because of time travel. So, yeah, the reason why superhero movies exploded is because the technology, not the ratings, not the demographics. The demographics were always there. RKO, one of the original Big Five studios, shut down because they weren't able to adapt to teenagers. Or they refused to adapt to teenagers, rather. That's why that studio shut down. Where, studios like Fox, they exploded into prominence because they were able to market towards teenagers. Teenagers are a very lucrative audience because they have the free time of children, but the money of adults. Sometimes. This is partly why Cape Shit came to dominate the movies. Because it's childish enough for kids. Punisher. The fucking Shadow predates film. Well, not film, but it predates... At least predates television, and he was, blasting dudes in the post for decades before, half these superheroes even existed. Childish enough for kids, but by having just a few hints of adult content or themes, the over 18s could flatter themselves into thinking they were watching something more sophisticated and not just kid stuff. No, the over 18s, they respect the artistry, they respect the thematic content, they respect the filmmaking, and they will tend to respect the characters, or at least have nostalgic ties to the characters. It's the teenagers, the audience that this is actually geared towards, that are like, oh yeah, this is exactly my mature level. I was 21 when Captain America Winter Soldier came out, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty mature for a teenager. It's pretty much on the level that I like for my, films tailored towards teenagers to be at. Like, there's nothing special about, being edgy. So the YA thing, there's no reason you can't go directly from reading children's books to adult books. I already debunked that. There are multiple reading levels, even within adult literature. You can't just go straight from Sherlock Holmes to Jane Eyre. You can't go straight from Jane Eyre to Journey to the West. You're not going to understand the language. You're not going to understand the verbiage. Now you have to learn to read in order to read. And you can always learn to read better. That is, it's a skill like that. Children to adult books. Except there was money to be made in inventing a new market. So young adult... Yeah, so Hollywood invented teenagers. Didn't you know? Man, this guy must be under the impression that before the 1970s or 2000s, because he doesn't know any of the histrionics, you're a kid, poof, you're an adult. No, the time progresses slower for some people than others. So young adult novels became a branding term, and now, of course, stunted adults read them more than actual lit. It is actual lit. Literature is written words. typically prose, but I think poetry also falls under literature. At least I learned about it in my lit classes. Like if you like Hunger Games, that's fine. You know, you're not. If you're a kid reading Hunger Games, you're not, all that much more mature for reading it. If you're an adult reading Hunger Games, you're not immature for you're just reading something else. People don't just read one thing. My mom, for instance, loves reading true crime fiction, or true crime literature and crime fiction, and she loves Stephen King. She loves what's his? She likes Dan Brown. Grisham. Is it John Grisham I'm thinking of? That she likes. I don't know. We have somewhat different taste in literature, but she read Hunger Games and she enjoyed it just fine. She enjoyed Hunger Games. That doesn't make her immature. She was pushing 40 when she read the Hunger Games. Not to carbon date her or myself here. She's like 20 years older than me. And we read Hunger Games around the same time. She enjoyed it just fine. Her enjoyment of that didn't, soften or exaggerate her enjoyment of Law and Order SVU or Halloween or Carrie. Carrie being another one of her favorite books. Which brings us to cartoons. When you look at the Western series that are promoted with marketing slogans like animation is for everyone and respect animation because they're supposedly appealing to adults as well as kids, they're just slightly edgy kids fare like YA novels. The idea that animation is for everyone isn't that a single animation series is for everyone. It means that there is animation for everyone. If you want sex and violence and just, people dying and genocide, Devilman Crybaby exists. If you prefer fart jokes and funny voices, then SpongeBob SquarePants is right there. If you want something a little more middling, if you want something that is, thematically mature, but content-wise is still safe for kids, then Gravity Falls. If you're an adult watching things with your, 2-year-old nieces, suck it up. You're going to have to watch Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Speaking from experience. If you're babysitting your nieces, you don't really have a choice. It's Barney or die. So capturing that wider audience is good, especially for parents. This person has obviously never actually talked to a kid, let alone parented one or babysat one, so, take that. I hate to be the self-hating Western animation fan, but any anime fan knows that there's pretty much an anime show or movie for every age and taste. So he just proved his own point wrong. Again, people don't watch just one thing. Just because I'm a massive fan of shonen action series doesn't mean that I spend every waking day and night watching shonen action series. No, I also like harems. Which is... Yeah, I'm just gonna let that point stay right where it's at. But any anime fan knows that there's pretty much an age of taste, and there's even family-friendly stuff in the true sense of the phrase, like Miyazaki films. Sorry, but Gravity Falls is a bit short. Not really. Gravity Falls is, pretty nuanced, and it has very engaging mystery that carries out throughout the entire series, and yeah, it also has fart jokes, but, people also get put in serious peril, and it's, it goes back to that old-fashioned macabre nature that used to dominate the screens for all audiences. People like this are deeply insincere about how emotionally immature they are, and how their immaturity is reflected in their tastes. Yeah, because having a different taste totally makes you image. This guy's just fucking edgy. Like, for real. No fun. So they have to elevate these shows in their minds. No, the shows elevate themselves just fine. I'm not a kid, so if I watch a kid's cartoon, therefore it's not just for kids. How logical. Yeah, if you're an adult and you enjoy things, that means that thing is not meant for non-adults. It can be enjoyed by anyone. Again, this is this used to be a requirement. Because parents used to have to take their kids to see cartoons. That was the only way they could see cartoons. So throwing the adults a bone isn't a bad thing. It makes, watching Star Wars a lot more fun with the nieces. I call them YA cartoons, but to be honest, even teenagers are too mature to be taking them so seriously. They just don't want to abandon childish habits or ask why the industry can't offer better than Family Guy or stoner cartoons for adult animation. So they became retarded Peter Pans. I do have my gripes with the Adult Swim mindset where the only way to be mature is to be, overtly sexual or just gross looking. But again, they kind of don't have to be because Eastern cartoons are so easily available. Crunchyroll is free. Totally legit streaming sites are even more free. Like, I could watch High School DxD just fine. If I want something mature that doesn't look gross, I can just go to Funimation or Crunchyroll or totally legit streaming sites and have my fix of High School DxD or Konosuba or Cowboy Bebop. There's a large supply and a large demand, and so it's a very healthy industry in that aspect. You don't have to separate it east to west because they're not separated anymore. That changed in the 90s when we started having faithful translations. If I was an adult and I just wanted, puke jokes and slapstick humor, Japan is lacking. If I like Family Guy's sense of humor, there's not really an anime of that equivalent. And there doesn't have to be an anime of that equivalent because Family Guy is right here. Of course, a lot of these YA cartoons creators are just as stunted as their audiences and deliberately cultivate such cultish followings from the too old to be watching crowd, which tends to a lot of obsessive weirdos getting encouraged to be creepy. I have no idea what this guy is even saying, but he posted a picture of, We Stand Bisexual Star. I'm not going to get into the whole representation thing. I said I made my peace with that during my most recent writer's workshop. I'm going to visually stimulate you guys for a little bit as I continue on. So as Beanmouth is the default art style for crappy modern Western cartoons, the fucking Beanmouth thing. So, you've all probably seen the meme that's like, oh man, this is what Western cartoons look like nowadays, and they all have the same eyes and mouth. The thing about that meme is that it's a lie. If you look at actual screenshots from Steven Universe, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, or Amazing World of Gumball, you'll find out that the guy who made that meme is a fucking hack and actually photoshopped all those images in order to prove a point. They don't all have bean mouths. Some of them do, more so than others, but at the end of the day, SpongeBob doesn't have bean mouth. Teen Titans didn't have bean mouth. Teen Titans Go doesn't. Well, what are some other Phineas and Ferb? Phineas and Ferb is one of the most successful cartoons ever put on Disney Channel. That doesn't have Bean Mouth. It's not the default. It's just a thing that a few things have in common because that's how style works. You know, are you gonna criticize anime for having all the spiky ass hair and belt buckles? Sure, go ahead, do that, but don't pretend like it's the only thing that exists. You know, Quintuplets doesn't have any characters with spiky hair. I guess maybe you can count Mido, but his hair is more just long than spiky.
Better useless than dead.
You're searching for missing soldiers. You're not trained for this.
I can learn. And I won't get in the way.
Why is the default for their writing and concepts? No, because concepts aren't inherently, you know, age specific.
Locals have seen them in this area, but we haven't.
You can have violence without showing blood and gore. You can have, you know, you can have sexual innuendos without actually showing two people fucking. Like, concepts aren't mature or immature. It's how you portray them that makes them that way. And Power Rangers is a, you know, very violent show, but it's very safe for kids because it doesn't show any blood or gore or anything. It's just two people hitting each other and then sparks fly. Turn to search area. Oh.
Arrow wounds.
Where are the arrows?
Pulled out to reuse them.
Sign of a skilled archer.
Yeah, these seem like healthy shows for children and the adults who take them super seriously. Remember, these fandoms need emotional porn in the media they consume because modern society requires they suppress everything that makes them human. Ah, yes, because feeling emotions is totally not human.
Tracks.
He says something and then he says like the exact opposite and thinks he's smart doing that. I'm assuming it's a he.
Come here to catch crickets.
At least once a week.
He's very condescending. You know, it could be a woman, but I highly doubt that. And that's not me being sexist or woke or anything. I can't imagine, you know, a woman writing this. Girls tend to be a lot more emotionally driven. That's just statistically speaking. Woman is less likely to say stupid shit like this and try to act logically about it. No, people write emotional things because they like the emotional catharsis. You know, people get angry, people get sad, people get scared, and it's totally fine for, you know, children's entertainment to handle stuff like that. Which brings me to the whole, like, Bambi's mom comment I made earlier. Now, this guy, he pretends that, you know, there's no sad moments in actual kids' cartoons that are geared towards kids and were really written to appeal to adults, but I'm just like, Bambi's mom, Littlefoot's mom, Mufasa, all these other like really tragic moments from kids' entertainment happens, and for a lot of people that's their first experience with like death is through these cartoons. I might clip this out and make a discussion video on it.
Still the Mongols' explosive barrels.
I've gone on long enough to where it would be really easy to find in like a VOD or something.
Tracks here.
Sorry for the self-bomb, but I neglected to mention Harry Potter. This is a key to understanding YA's infantilization of art, a series designed to be read from childhood into adulthood, to replace challenging oneself with adult art. No, okay, so Harry Potter was kind of a once-in-a-generation thing, where, it was kind of made possible through the power of the internet, which was still kind of in its fledgling stages when Harry Potter started. But thanks to the internet, you can, you know, better keep track of serious books and find out, like,
Keep your head
which
steady.
ones to
You'll
read
go up.
when, and they kind of exploded in popularity in a way that that you know, they kind of instantly exploded into popularity, and then as that initial audience matured, the stories matured as well because shocker of shockers,
A samurai.
the
Alive!
characters
Get over
matured.
here.
You know, Harry Potter started off the series,
You must be
you know, at
archers
the
from
ripe
Yarikawa.
old age of
left of them.
11,
Mongols caught us raiding a
and
close
by the end of the
surprise.
series, he's what,
Evaded
17,
the
18?
What about the others?
Captured. We tracked them
And so
here.
it makes sense for him to mature, and it makes sense for the stories to mature
Like
along
you
with
can handle
him.
yourselves. I'm
And because
Jin
this
Sakai.
it
Sakai,
exploded in
eh?
popularity the
As
way
long
it
as you're not
did,
the Shimura.
that audience also matured over the
Let's have a
course
look at
of
that
10
camp.
years.
Prison
So
camp.
Harry Potter was kind of always
Looks like the
there
Mongols
for
are on
them
the move.
throughout
Heading
that
for a
period of
garrison on the
time.
other side of
And I
Lake
don't
Yarikawa.
think that's something that
They
can
need to
be
strike
easily
now, before they
recaptured.
leave.
Honestly, like
There's your archers.
looking at other stories that have lasted a long time, like One Piece. One Piece kind of plateaued in terms
idea
of its
to rush in.
maturity during the
We know
Paramount
where they're
War. It's
headed.
kind of been,
We can set
you know,
an
just
ambush
kind of
along the
riding
road.
the coattails of
Terrain
its own
isn't good for an
success.
ambush.
And, you know,
What about
Oda's
old
keen
Yarikawa?
writing senses and plot-driven,
Rooftops
you know,
on both
sentimentality.
sides of the road.
We can even use your stolen explosives.
Western animation fans pretty much only have anime and a handful of things like Ralph
move before the
Bakshi
Mongols do.
films to challenge themselves with after adolescence. Therefore, as with Harry Potter, they like when the product
Mongols are
they've
headed
been
this way.
consuming matures to the level
inside
of,
one
well,
of the
teen
houses.
melodrama.
No. I'm staying out
No,
here.
not really.
I can
Again,
fight
it's
too.
not just
Jin,
anime.
tell him.
I mean, I guess in terms of
Taka
Western
can decide
animation, I
for
guess in
himself.
terms of
And you
animation,
can watch out for him.
kind of right. You know, Western animation doesn't really do teenagers
Are you
all that
scared?
often.
No.
It's more the
Not really.
Eastern animation that
A little.
has entire genres
must never
dedicated
afraid.
to
You're
teenagers.
probably like that too.
But that's the end of the
Fear drives you
thread.
to be stronger, fight harder.
Oops, I did not mean to skip the cutscene.
There they are. I'll shoot the barrels when the Mongols get close.
Lord Sakai, I'm not ready.
You can do this, Taka. Just take your fear and use it.
Yes, my lord. Now, my lord.
Not yet.
They're close enough now, right?
No mercy!
You want to... You want to fight? Let's fight!
Destroy them!
Back to the focusing on the game. Yeah, I might make a little VOD out of that. You do a little bit of editing. That's a project.
Not Sakai!
Good work, Daikoku. Take your men back to Yarikawa stronghold.
Right away. I know you're a Sakai, but you didn't mention you're a ghost. Will we have your help breaking the siege?
If Ujimasa accepts it.
I'll make sure he does.
The stories are true. I've never seen anyone fight like you.
Been going for almost
Taka,
2 hours.
Go with Daikoku. I need a moment with Jin.
I'll see you back home.
But like 20 minutes of that was me ranting about that Twitter thread. So I'll probably go until about 2:30.
He's fine.
I'll give an extra half
did
an hour
everything
to the stream because of that.
I shouldn't have let him fight.
So like 2 more missions maybe.
I know you want to protect him, but you're holding him back.
Taka's not a fighter.
He could become one.
You don't know my brother like I do.
You can't always be the one to defend him.
I'll decide what's best for Taka. You look after your own family. I need to go back. We still need to end this siege.
I'll see you there.
Lord Saka.
Go ahead and do this, I guess.
Lord Sakai, you're back.
Taka. Yarikawa has a fighting chance because of our efforts. You should be proud.
I am, my lord. But the Mongols are growing restless outside.
We showed them Yarikawa won't surrender. Now they want payback.
Will they attack tonight?
Unlikely. They'll give us a sleepless night, then attack tomorrow, when we're exhausted. Get some rest while you can.
The ghost of Yarikawa.
I almost forgot. Yuna is in the keep. She wants you to meet her there.
Thank you, Taka.
It might actually be easier to just kind of redo that rant. I don't know. I'll find a way to give that its own due diligence with proper editing and stuff.
Preparation for the town's defenses are going well.
Daikoku tells me this is the ghost doing. Thank you. But it won't change what I think of your uncle.
That's not my goal. The samurai were wiped out. We need you.
You need bodies to throw at the Mongols.
Yarikawa's people are known for courage and skill. We need that more than anything.
I'll consider it.
I think she's upstairs. I do remember things going down here. But I did this mission in my first playthrough. I did this mission a lot later. Like I did the other kind of quest lines first.
You're awake too.
I killed the samurai. A chance to a bunch of farmers have.
We have to try.
Yeah, I remember this scene. I was like,
I think you need this more than me.
I like these characters. I like this game quite a lot. it's got its issues, but it's still a fine piece of entertainment. That's another thing. Does this guy not realize that you know, rated T for video games has been, you know, a thing for as long as there's been an ESRB?
Kenji spent the rest
Like,
of the day
unlike movies
wearing
and
one
television,
sandal.
video games never had to go through any kind of transitional phase.
This is
It's a much newer medium.
My mother loved it. Used to drink it like water. She gets
I
so
think this
mad
is rated
when
M.
She ran out.
But,
Yelled at us.
well, you know, something like...
Where's
like,
my tea?
You know, Arkham City was rated
Sounds like
T.
a demanding woman.
And that had, you know, a lot of violence in it.
She broke Taka's
A lot
arm
of
when he was
mature
6.
themes. A lot of, like,
I took him away.
complex,
Ran as far from
you
her as
know,
we could get.
themes about
We heard
responsibility
they found her a
and,
month
and
later.
whether it was worth, whether Gotham
Face
was
down in the
worth
street.
saving. Not all that good stuff.
You were brave to protect your brother. Sometimes our only choice is to walk away from everything we know. Yuna!
Jin, this is it.
To the gates.
Whatever happens, we don't retreat.
Jin! Yuna! The Mongols!
Let's go. How close?
They're at the main gates. If they get through...
We'll stop them.
There he is! The ghost!
The ghost!
Yeah,
Save
I
us!
have to take out the
Taka,
ballistas.
gather everyone who can't fight and get them to the keep.
Everyone! Take shelter in the keep!
I know they're called something else.
They're at the gates!
They're attacking!
Ballista's just my frame of reference.
Stand your ground! Every Mongol who sets foot inside our walls will die! Don't let them past you!
Archers! Cut them down!
Oh, Yurikawa! For the goals!
Let me switch. Just wasn't working there for a minute. I know there comes a point where they're just like, go hold it, you know. Do the ballistas. I think that's this mission.
Jin! They're breaking through the other gate!
Warriors of Yarikawa! Hold this position! Yuna, me!
Yeah, I did not know that was possible. Did not know I could get locked out like that.
Drive them back! Hold this gate!
You see those reflexes?
city! Archers! Hold them back!
They're falling back.
We barely damaged them. What are they up to?
Trying to lure us out?
No. Hold them off as long as you can, then fall back to the keep. I'll deal with the siege weapons.
I should come with you.
No. Taka needs you. Break through the Mongol line. Destroy those siege weapons.
Taking out the archers that too. You never know if just keep the knife. Siege engines. That could have been better. I just need to really focus on the offense first. My kingdom for an actual lock on button. I know I've kind of criticized some of the Zelda games like overdo the lock on button. That was like a requirement for combat, but ever since I played The Witcher 3 a few years ago now, kind of had a new appreciation for lock on features, and this is another game that I think could have benefited from that.
One down.
Nowhere near as bad as The Witcher, though. Like, the lack of a log-on feature very rarely leads to your death. You just kind of have to wrestle with the controls a little bit more in order to do things.
through the walls. But we can still drive them out. Won't be easy to get back to the stronghold. The general, Temuge. Sounds like he's near the keep.
Harvo! Here, you!
Do something. Boss battle. I am not prepared for this.
Temuge! Face me! The ghost! Khotun will reward me for your head.
It's gonna be really hard because I used up a lot of resolve.
I am Jin Sakai,
that one dude.
and I have killed men like you all across our island.
Your blood will soak the
He doesn't
island!
have any like bullshit moves. He's just kind of
Careful, Temuge. You can't get Khotun's reward if you're dead.
A lucky blow! You will not get another!
slow. Not like the Ronins that have kicked my ass in this game, you know, time and time again. Kind of go under the impression that you have to dodge all of his attacks, and
Leave Tsushima now, and I might show you mercy.
Yarikawa!
I wish there was an easier way to get results back in these kinds of situations.
You have killed men in many countries, Temuge, but here, you die.
Ghost Soul Berserk!
Doing really well considering that I came in here with half my health bar missing and all but 2 resolve missing. Looking forward to dying and then doing significantly worse for the next 50 tries.
I am Jin Sakai, and I have killed men like you all across our island.
Your blood will soak the island!
Careful, Temuge.
Got something in my eye. Nope.
You can't get Kotun's reward if you're dead.
A lucky blow! You will not get another!
So far, so good. So much health. I don't have enough result to heal. Oh, we're gonna be here for a while. This is gonna be the end of the stream. This fight. One way or another. It's gonna be the end of the stream.
I am Jin Sakai.
I
and I have
really
killed
don't
men
want
like
to
you
do
all across our
all of
island.
this mission over
Your
again.
blood will soak the island!
So I'm not done
Careful,
with this
Temuge.
boss fight
You
by
can't get Kotun's reward if you're dead.
2:30.
A lucky blow!
Then I'm calling it
You will
quits.
not get another!
Rolling like it's Dark Souls over here.
Leave Tsushima now,
In order to
and I might
change
show
the
you
difficulty,
mercy.
I have to
Yarikawa will burn!
start the mission over again anyway, so... Whether it's to get more resolve for this fight or change the difficulty, it's still, I mean, I have to do this or start all over with only 2 options.
You have killed men in many countries, Temuge, but here, you die.
Ghost Soul Berserk!
Invisible walls. Has hasn't really cost me yet, but it's cost me a few hits, I think. That first time. It's probably Yep, right there. Invisible wall cost me some resolve. I just like looking down at my laptop and seeing what happened.
I have killed men like you all across our
situations like that.
Your blood will soak the island!
Careful, Temuge. You can't get Khotun's reward if you're dead.
A lucky blow! You will not get another!
Leave Tsushima now, and I might show you mercy.
Yarikawa will burn!
You have killed men in many countries, Temuge. But here, you die.
Ghosts of the circle!
Got him. Yeah, this is where I unlock Ghost Stand. I think I have Ghost Stand.
Look at your general! Run! This will be your fate!
Just for this mission, sadly.
People of Yarikawa!
Nope.
Hunt every Mongol to the last man! Spare no one! For Yarikawa! Keep after them! No mercy! Kill them all! Cut them down! Take their heads! For the ghost! Everyone to the gate! Push through! For the ghost! The ghost! Push them back!
Yuna!
We saved your town. Now, We help Lord Shimura save our island!
We are not soldiers!
Who killed these Mongols? Who stood against the siege? Who saved Yarikawa? We did.
I like that.
Just stay here and wait for the Mongols to try
Who drove
again.
the Mongols out of Yarikawa?
You say you are not soldiers.
Them all together. Like, yeah, I
are
killed
warriors.
a lot of them,
We can
including
defeat
their
the
leader.
invaders
But
and save our home.
at the end of the day, they all
Only
fought
if we
hard,
stand together.
and a lot of them died. Some of them were my bad. How old Joe heard. I'm sorry and my bad means that kind of thing unless you're at a funeral. Always kind of cracks me up. The ghost of Yarikawa. Recruit the people of Yarikawa to form an army. Castle Shimura.
Your friend defeated one of my best generals. My men have started to believe he's invincible. You will prove them wrong. I don't care about the reward for Jin's head. Have you stopped caring for your loyal Straw Hats? Jin is the best swordsman on the island. My men can't kill him. There are many ways to eliminate a foe. Find another. What if we didn't have to kill him?
Yeah.
It's done.
Ryuza is
Probably
basically
join our
like,
fight, but I have
yeah,
other
there ain't
duties
no
before we can
swordsman
retake
gonna
Lord
beat
Shimura's castle.
Jin, not one-on-one. Ignore the guy that kicked my ass for like 30 minutes on stream. Oh, says actually, I think it was him. I think it was the little boss fight with him at the end of Act 1. Yeah, says the guy who kicked my ass for 30 minutes. I eventually beat him though.
Farewell.
I think that's gonna be it for let me check something. Yeah, that's gonna be it for the stream. It'll take me a while to get to this, and that's actually the last. I think that's the last little mission I have to do in order to get to Act 2. So next stream, I will probably do a lot of side missions. I will do the Tale of Yuna. I will continue the Tale of Ishikawa and the Tale of Lady Masako. Yeah, Lady Masako, Yuna, and Ishikawa. And then I will also maybe do Ghost from the Past. And then depending on how much time I have after that, that'll probably be the entire stream. And then the next stream, we will wrap up Act 2 and get into Act 3. We'll do the rest of, do more Nordio, and then we'll do more, like another side mission or two to wrap that up, and then we'll do the, Castle Shimura. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for indulging me on a rather long stream. And I look forward to Ruby returning tomorrow. I look forward to getting back into the groove of things as far as that goes. And I will see you all next time I have the time to stream. So, good night, y'all.